It's Wednesday and it is 11 o'clock, and that means it's time for Elevenses with the Reps at Diesel Bookstore. Thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time joining us here at Elevenses, we get together every Wednesday at 11 with our fantastic publishers representatives and our booksellers, and we talk about everything book related that is new, upcoming, and sometimes old favorites, anything that our wonderful professionals here are excited about sharing with you. And we do have three absolutely wonderful reps with us today to talk about all things books. And I am going to introduce them right now, and then we're going to get going. So grab a beverage or a snack. I won't ask you what's in your beverage. Could be anything. And let's get going. So joining us today, we have Liz Camfiord from Random House.
Hello.
Hello, Liz. We've got Julia Callahan from Hachette, who is not in her car. For a change, we like to feature
for once.
her car for once. She's a road warrior. And also joining us and rounding it out is Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press. Three absolutely wonderful women here to talk about some fantastic books, and I am going to launch right into it. Let us not waste any time. Liz, lead us off.
I will lead you off with a book that just went on sale yesterday. Hotly anticipated new Ian McEwan.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm sure you have a nice big stack at Diesel. This is What We Can Know, and this is speculative fiction from Ian. So it's set 100 years in the future in a drowned world that looks back to 2014 and the beginning of the climate collapse. So I know sometimes time travel, you don't know where you are in it and everything, but I think we know by now that he's a master, and the reviews are outstanding, comparing it in quality to Atonement. So fans of Atonement are going to be super happy. I love the book because, you know, I'm a poetry lover, and it has a lost poem as one of its central plot points, and it opens on the main character's wife's birthday. Poets talking about this lost poem. So in the novel, the scholars in the future, we're talking about the 22nd century, are contemplating their past, which is our present. So much depends on this discovery of this poem that may or may not physically exist, thanks to the great inundation. So the great drowning of the world that transformed the face of the earth. So in the New Yorker's review that came out yesterday, I love the headline of it, the title of it, because I think it's so apt. Ian McEwan casts the climate crisis as a story of adultery. And yes, the main character has a lover, and there's, you know, it works on the intimate level and the macro level and all of that. So he's a Booker Prize winner, you know, just one of our literary luminaries for sure. And this is a work of science fiction, he says, without the science. And then he goes on to say, and I love when an author talks about, you know, the origin story of their novel. My ambition in this novel was to let the past, present, and future address each other across barriers of time. I've written a novel about a quest, a crime, revenge, fame, a tangled love affair, mental illness, love of nature and poetry, and how through all natural and self-inflicted catastrophes, we have the knack of surviving. And so we love the note of hope. Yes, it's fiction, but I'm also thinking about how I'm in Berkeley, live to you from Berkeley, California. And I went to the Robert Reich event last night, and he was so you know, he has his new memoir coming up short. And he was so wonderful talking about, you know, how we can sustain hope and all of that. So yes, this is a novel about all sorts of our present concerns, but it definitely has a hopeful note. And then the writing is just perfect and beautiful and great storytelling. So that is what I wanted to share with you today.
Ian, and normally I just want to mention that normally we pop up the cover of the book, and we're not willfully not doing that. We're having a couple of computer issues. What would Wednesday be without a couple of computer issues? So sorry about that. I did want to ask you, Liz. Well, first I wanted to say that event last night sounded really great.
So good.
I heard, read a couple of clips and quotes, and it sounded like it was fantastic.
Yep.
But I also wanted to ask you because I feel like there are readers out there who have kind of seen Ian McEwan go by and have not read him. I've run into a fair amount of readers who haven't read him and know the name. Do you think that that this book would be a good
Yes.
first book to start with?
Atonement
Atonement was a bit heavy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Atonement
yeah.
or this. Yeah, it seems thematically heavy, but I'm telling you, I love the opening scene of this party, for one thing. So that's a great entry point. But the plot moves along. This is not bogged down by philosophy or heavy-handed, he's so good. So I would say this or Atonement. That's really
Perfect.
I know he had lessons. He's had other great books, but he's back in full form.
A good entry point. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All
and
right.
The cover, sorry to keep talking, but
no.
This is the best cover he's ever had. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we'll eventually
get so lush, and it's got this doorway sort of. Please, it's so good. I wish I had it next to me.
Joey's working on it behind the scenes.
Well, if it comes at the tail end, maybe we could show it.
Yeah. Good. It's anyway.
The cover alone would make someone pick it up, believe me.
Well, I think you talking about it is going to make people look for it.
Anyway. That's the idea.
Thank you so much, Liz. All right, Julia, what have you got for us to start?
All right. Well, I can share my screen.
You can, of course, always share your screen.
But I have, except I don't know what. Okay, there we go. So my title that I am talking about is The Book of Guilt by Catherine Chidgey. She is a New Zealand-based author. And this book is, it felt like reading Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go. It is about this orphanage in England. There's triplets in the orphanage, and you're following them. And it's one of those things where something is off, but you as the reader are not sure exactly what's off. And as you get deeper and deeper into the story, you of course find out what is off about this. But also, it takes place in a world where nobody won World War II. There was just a treaty signed. And so the question that this book really asks is what would be allowed, particularly in the vein of human experimentation, if nobody had won World War II. And so that's the premise of the book. And the way it unfolds is the beauty of it. It really, I know reps get on here and we talk about how we rarely get to read an entire novel cover to cover because we have a lot to get through. So I'm usually reading large chunks of novels. But this one I refused to put down. I had to read the whole thing. I was like, I need to know what happens. I need to know what's going on. Julie from the event coordinator at Warwick's actually texted me the whole time she was reading it, like texted me the ending. And I was, so it's that kind of, oh, yay.
There it is. Yay, Joey. You're awesome. And we're going to see Liz's book too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, it's that kind of book. It's the kind of book you want to discuss. Catherine Chidgey has written quite a few books in New Zealand, and I had one bookseller actually tell me that she has now become a huge fan and read all of her other books. But this is sort of her first big American book that's out here in America. And it is just phenomenal. I can't say enough good about The Book of Guilt.
That's amazing, Julia. It doesn't happen that often, but this is a book I knew absolutely nothing about. It kind of slid under my own personal radar. But I have been fascinated by, I mean, I wanted to know more about it. So this is, and the Ishiguro comparison is really interesting as well, because that is not something that I had seen before. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julia, let me tell you that being up here in the Bay, Mrs. Dalloway's, Pegasus, they're all talking about this book.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how I missed it.
And it's,
I dropped the ball. That's how you missed it.
Well, that is very kind of you to to take responsibility. I don't, sometimes in the rush of, I read ahead a lot. You know, we all read ahead a lot, all of us. And between reading ahead and then new releases and then stuff that came out that you missed, sometimes things get, but thank you very much. This looks fantastic. Patricia, let's go over to you.
Yeah, kind of a nice, rare sort of recherche sort of moment.
Well, I haven't heard recherche for a long time, Patricia. Thank you.
It would be nice if I could pronounce it. 3 early stories by Virginia Woolf. How often a new Virginia Woolf? And the book is lovely, nicely made all around, has some violet end papers. This is very early work of the 25-year-old Virginia, written in 1907. She wrote 3 sort of magical, sort of interconnected, sort of comic stories, which are a tribute to her lifelong friend, Violet Dickinson, who was very tall, very kind. If you are deeply involved in Bloomsbury, you would know that Violet Dickinson protected and mentored and supported Virginia through one of her early depressions. The story, here's a picture of the 2 of them together. I'll wait until we can look at that. Does that work? And you can see the very tall Violet protecting the very young Virginia at that time. There's quite a story behind this book. There is a manuscript only recently discovered, which bears the hand of the mature Virginia and corrections by Dickinson to the early manuscript. So these have never really been published in this form. The book has lots of rich, deep notes. It's an impulsive literary buy, a sort of lovely novelty, and a book for the completist. And there's something about Bloomsbury that seems to make you have to keep going. For many of us also, of course, we're celebrating Mrs. Dalloway this year. Columbia has a book coming out on kind of a biography of Mrs. Dalloway is coming out, and quite a lot of material, new editions. So this can kind of join a celebration of thinking about Virginia Woolf as a young writer and as a mature scholar or a mature writer. So lots is brought to this. There's superb notes. It's very rich in the presentation. They are very, very light, small stories in a really very attractive package.
It's a beautiful book. I'm so excited about this book, and it's it's just such an easy buy and want for people. I think everybody knows there's a whole there are always new generations of readers of Virginia Woolf. I feel like I've met a lot of them. I love it when they're younger and coming in and really wanting to read Virginia Woolf, and this is perfect gift for one of those readers, I think, and also beautiful looking. So like you said, something for the completist, an impulse buy, and anybody who is Bloomsbury obsessed. So perfect package altogether. Thanks, Patricia. All right, we're going to go back to you, Liz.
Oh, Patricia, really quickly, did you say who the actual publisher of that is? Of that book?
This is Princeton. It's a Princeton University press book.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is from Princeton.
Excellent. And so my next book is a collection of short stories. It's called Good and Evil, and it's by Samanta. want to say Schweblin. If I saw the cover, I would be able to pronounce it, but I didn't write it down. She's an Argentinian writer who won the National Book Award for her last book in translation, called, I think, Seven Houses. Anyway, Good and Evil is an amazing collection of short stories. Sometimes I'm stuck with my favorite short story writers of the past, Raymond Carver and, Grace Paley and all of that. And I'm looking for new, fantastic short story writers. And yes, Samanta's writes novels too. But this collection is so great, so weird, but not weird in that you can't follow along. Haunting. So in the realm of Brothers Grimm or Jorge Luis Borges, Angela Carter, and then more recently, another new discovery short story writer who I've talked about previously on Elevenses, Zach Williams. So really in that wheelhouse. So as one colleague says, think of her as the Argentinian Shirley Jackson. And I think that that's right. Her previous book was Seven Empty Houses that she won the National Book Award for. And then one of her stories, Fever Dream, in this is now a Netflix film. And her popularity is just totally rising. And she's become kind of the go-to author of literary horror. And it is horrific in this quiet, domestic way. These stories, almost all of them have a tragedy as its centerpiece. The one that just really has stuck with me is a story about a couple whose toddler swallows a battery, and this battery is leaking and he has to have certain, it just sounds horrible, but it's just what it does to the family. And then it goes years in and there's this sort of supernatural element, and oh my God, it's so good. So the characters here, as I said, they kind of find themselves with these impending tragedies. They're vulnerable, but really profoundly human. So the relationships in these short stories, just like Grace Paley could do, like, these characters that in such a short amount of time, you can really know these characters and what they're dealing with. And so John Freeman, its editor, who's such a great editor, look for his books. John Freeman, he's such an amazing person. He also runs the Alta Book Club here in California. So anyway, he says this has guilt, grief, broken relationships, and permeate this collection, but so do the bonds. And this is what I want to emphasize: family, love, and longing. And Tommy Orange, one of our favorite writers, Tommy Orange, says just so strange and beautiful. So could not speak highly enough of this. So please pick it up, read a story. I think you'll be hooked.
I couldn't agree more with that assessment. Your colleague, our friend Tom Benton, is the person who introduced me to Samanta Schweblin a while ago, because he loves her, and I always read what Tom tells me to read. And she's amazing. I think what she captures brilliantly is sort of the horror of the everyday. When you have those sort of dark thoughts that you have and things that unfold in your own psyche that happen to you in just the course of a life, she goes there and talks about all of those. And so it's oddly relatable, even though it's outsized in terms of the sort
experiences.
Creepy, and creepy factor kind of a thing. But the kernel of it, that sort of horror of things that can happen, is there, and that's why she's so fantastic. She's really great.
Yeah, and it's in translation. Like, if I could read the original, because this translator is so fabulous.
There's that too. Sometimes you forget when the translator is so good, you forget that it's in translation too.
Totally.
And it's funny, you forget, but when it's not a good translation, you always remember.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good rule of thumb. Thank you so much, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Julia.
All right. So for my next book, I have a memoir. This from the DJ music producer Mark Ronson, who I feel like I best know him from Uptown Funk, the Bruno Mars song. He's the music producer behind that song, and it's on his album. I think a lot of people don't know that Bruno Mars song is on Mark Ronson's album. This is called it is called Night People, and the subtitle How to Be a DJ in 90s New York City. And it's his memoir of growing up in New York City in the 90s. But really, I have to say, this is a love letter to music. It is a love letter to DJing, and like, I think the somewhat lost art of DJing. And I'm talking about specifically 2 turntables, where you know exactly where the little piece that you want in an album is, and you cue it up and sort of, flip back and forth. Old school sort of hip hop DJing, and the way that he talks about both his search for records of various kinds, and sort of, he picks out a piece of this one song, and he has to find this record because he needs that little piece of this one song on like a obscure funk record from 1970 whatever, like, and he has to go find it somewhere in the East Village. And it's just this like kind of great, I mean, in a way, it's like an adventure novel. If you are like me, someone who likes to lose yourself in a stack of old records and figure out what looks good there. But also, it is just like the way he talks about music and pieces of music and how music fits together, and how as a DJ, it's your responsibility to know that these 2 beats are going to, coincide with each other while you're putting together this music. It is just like an utter joy. Honestly, I had such a great time reading this book. So yeah, this is Night People by Mark Ronson. If you are a music fan, even if you don't know who Mark Ronson is, honestly, if you're a music fan, this is a really, really fun book to sink into. It's a quick read. It took me a couple days to read it, and I enjoyed every second because I love music, so I loved reading this.
I always know that when Hachette has like a hot music book, or any music book, actually, I know that you're going to talk about it, because I know that you're a fan, which is why I ask you for books all the time. I am too. But I was super excited to see this one come through. And I have been reading, there was a great review, I think it was in The Guardian over the weekend, where they loved it, and they said it's just so sort of good-hearted. Like, he does a lot of name dropping, like it's all name dropping, really, famous people who babysat him, and like Michael Jackson or whatever.
I mean, truly, he had a lot of that.
There was some silver spoon action, but it's not, what they say is that it's just never, it doesn't feel name droppy, even though that's just sort of how it was, right? So it enhances rather than detracts, or
and I think like his love of it, like that's what really shines through.
Right.
It's like, even though, sure, like his dad was a musician, and so a lot of very famous musicians were sort of in his life and turn him on to things. But he's also like name dropping like really obscure musicians that he's like trying to find their albums, and he's like dropping the names of if you knew New York in the 90s, like the guy who ran this record store and like would tell him what to get. Which
is super fun stuff. Even if you're not immersed in it, or you don't have a background, it fills in the details, and you don't feel like it's just inside baseball that you don't understand. It's really great, really, really fun book. I think. And for especially, I can't believe that, like the 90s is nostalgia now. It's just sort of doing my head in. I don't even remember the 90s, So,
yeah.
not for good reasons. So yeah, thank you, Julia.
Of course.
Patricia.
Well, I have a gigantic book I just received and I've been waiting for. This is Barnett Newman here. You can see it's a monster. It's a monumental first biography of Barnett Newman, one of the leaders of abstract expressionism, one of the movement's key thinkers, public figures, very central artist, but one missing the big book. And you've seen those coming along. It's just the format for the big art biography. Uh, Written by Amy Newman, no relation, but chosen by the Barnett Newman Foundation, and also Frank Stella, one of Newman's compatriots in color field painting, along with Ellsworth Kelly, Helen Frankenthaler, Mark Rothko, Clifford Still. That was his milieu. He was very verbal, wrote a great deal. He was very much the voice of the movement. His landmark essay, The Sublime, is now sort of announced the impulse of modern art to destroy beauty. A preoccupation with the beautiful, he said, has impeded the perception of the absolute. So Newman really delves deeply. She had a unique access to archives. She's really done a tremendous, rich, deep dive into Newman's life. She is very interested in his signature device, an artistic trademark, which is called the zip. All of his paintings tend to have this single line somewhere down the center. And they seem incredibly simple, and yet I became more and more obsessed, and they became indeed more and more sublime. She sees that line as representing a single ray of light, a pillar of fire, a primal gesture, and also connection as well as division. Newman gave very powerful names to his paintings, like wonderment perhaps, or biblical names, including some sculptures which were called Here. And here would be the biblical Here, Moses before the burning bush. Here I am. So that is our subtitle. Newman was extremely demanding of his work, destroyed a great deal. There are only 118 paintings and 6 sculptures. This is a big missing piece of a story of modern art. It's modernism, urbanism, freedom to create. It's a New York City book. It's a Jewish life. Newman was a lifelong New Yorker, ran for mayor on a write-in cultural ticket. So we're expecting a lot of excitement around this book. It's in the context of books like Ninth Street Women and the rediscovery of women in the canon of abstract expressionism, of recent big biographies, for example, Francis Bacon. We have had some superb early attention from Kirkus, from some of the art news are anticipating it. We expect a lot of New York Review of the New York Review book, New York Times Variety. There's just something very rich here. He was always known as Barney. He had a charm, but was also quite manic. A great deal comes through, and it's just a big book of the moment for Barnett Newman. Finally, there's not much out on him. The Yale catalog is out of print. The University of California's writings of Barnett Newman is out of print. So there's plenty of room to be thinking about him and wishing we had more access.
Although with this book, I mean, you've got the lock right on it though, because here's the book.
Oh, the big picture book is not out there in print right now.
The picture,
so,
right? Okay.
Yeah. Those kind of things kind of come and go depending on the situation with exhibitions and so on. But I think there'll be a lot of excitement. In fact, it was hard to track down his essay on the Sublime, which I wanted to look at because the Cal book had escalated in used book pricing and things like that. So I think I found a PDF online.
Absolutely fascinating. I don't know anything about him, so every time Patricia presents a book, I'm like, oh, there's this whole other line of study that I need to do.
Writing to think about. I got very involved, Googling insanely, and it was interesting to watch the prices rise. There was a certain point in his life when they were both teachers, but his wife was going to teach and he was going to devote himself to his art. And it was a very modest life. Not long after he died, things were going for millions and more than that recently, if there's ever anything available. A lot of it is at the Menil. So that would be a place to really be able to look at him. They have a painting of Ulysses, a long, long, long blue painting. I don't know why I loved it so much, but there it was, long blue painting with a zip down it.
I mean, that zip I'm familiar with, but that's pretty much where it ends for me. But this definitely fills in a lot of blanks. So thank you,
These are the kind of things where, when considering that they're, enormous paintings,
right.
You have, how often have you been in their presence?
Right.
You can see them,
Exactly.
but they're different. If you saw Rothko, if you saw an Agnes Martin,
right.
It's different to be with the painting than it is to be at a
And
distance.
I think that's true of a lot of very familiar art pieces. Maybe not the ones that are like super, super, super familiar, but some just it sort of passes by and you've seen it. And then if you are lucky enough to see some of these in person, it is a completely different experience, and often much better. I'm going to say sometimes it isn't probably for people. Oh, that's it. But in person, so excellent. Thank you so much, Patricia.
I was so happy to see your face, Patricia, because I knew we'd get a little art history lesson today. I always get something.
That's right. We're always happy to see Patricia. It's not just art history though. Everything Patricia talks about, I learn something, or I am made aware that I have gaps in my knowledge that need to be. I just want to say one thing.
Drifts around looking for gaps.
Well, one little thing. I just want to say one little thing about Patricia. We have a minute, so I just want to say my husband, Gabe, who is the Harper rep for a long, long time, many, many, many years. And he used to call on Patricia when she actually had the bookstore, which was the Living Batch, right, Patricia?
Oh, yeah. I was buyer there.
Right. So Patricia was the buyer there in this little indie bookstore. And my husband was kind of just starting off at Harper. And he said that every time that he would go and try to sell his list to Patricia, he was like, he got nervous. He really, yes, he did. He got nervous because he said, because Patricia was so smart and knew so much about everything and like connected so many different books that it was like, it was like a class that he had to prepare for. No, but he loved it. But he said he really had to be like on his game for you.
Crazy to see him. Yeah.
But that's still how we feel here. We're not in a flop sweat, but that's why we love you.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Yeah, but it's nice to think about Living Batch. It was Living Batch was actually from an Edward Dorn poem. The batch was a batch of acid being passed across the country, I believe, in a corpse. So it was that kind of store. That was the name of an era, and was really a very crazy store.
Exquisite really corpse book, the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Patricia. All right, Liz.
Speaking of exquisite, that's one of my adjectives of my next book. This is Radiance of the Ordinary. So it's from a small press that we just started distributing called Chelsea Green, and they publish they've been around a long time. They publish a lot of wonderful books on ecology and the environment. The Man Who Planted Trees by Jean Giorno is one of their classics. And this is a new collection in hardcover of essays, Radiance of the Ordinary. I think it's a wonderful book to read as we enter fall. Here's just a sampling of some of the chapters, chapter headings: Harvest, Sea of Wheat, The Bison, God, Girls on Hay Bales, In My Kitchen. It's all of this written by Tara Couture, who has a very popular Substack. It's her first book called Slow Down Farmstead Substack. She has written this book of essays, collected these essays about the cycles of life on the farm, in the seasons. And the quote from the editor is, "This is cultivating authenticity in an age of great pretend. Through our work, our homemaking, our food, our relationships, and our willingness to engage with life's pleasures and hardships alike." So it's one of those books about balance and about appreciating nature, great for fans of Wendell Berry, Terry Tempest Williams, Barry Lopez. It also has these wonderful illustrations, and she has a great Instagram where she has posted some of the illustrators' work. So the inspiration for the book, as I understand it, is really tragic. I'm not here to just talk about dark, tragic things, but let's just be honest that their daughter committed suicide. And so one of her opening essays, I think in her 20s, one of the opening essays is about, oh my gosh, it's so profound. It's about helping a cow in distress, in labor, in distress, not being able to birth this calf. And Tara has to reach into the cow and birth this calf. All the while she is thinking and juxtaposing, choosing the urn for her daughter. And I feel, emotional just talking about it because it's so beautifully effective and all of that. She wrote on Instagram about the book, "I know love beyond measure because I've been saturated in grief. I feel heart-bursting joy because of the fractures the sadness has left behind. I walk with death so that I can dance with wild abandon to the songs of life." So like I said, essays about health and sickness, work and pleasure, all of these balances, all of these juxtapositions, that I just feel almost like it's a life manual, gorgeous book. And I hope that people will pick it up because it was one of my picks of my last list. Again, it's a small press, so this is the first time where they're really getting this broad distribution. And I know that Richard ordered at least a couple copies from me, so it should be in the store now.
I was really excited when you were going to talk about this book, Les, because this is really a kind of book I'm enjoying right now. Essays, people are doing amazing things with essays lately.
Yeah.
Short ones, long ones, but also this kind of reflective acknowledgement of grief and musing on end of life and these kind of difficulties, and that which sounds morbid, but it's not. It's
not. It's life affirming. It really is life affirming,
exactly.
And the dualities of life. And so
Right.
she's really the perfect person to write it, as she's so involved in, farming and agriculture and animals.
Absolutely. I agree.
How fun
Thank
for you
you,
to have
Liz.
Chelsea Green. I love Chelsea Green. I have a lot of their books.
Too. Oh, good.
They did a book on nourishment about goats choosing the right weed. There's something about their books.
Oh, look for it.
A few of them, and I love this title, "Radiance of the Ordinary." That's
yeah.
I'll look for this book.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I love it. It's the best part of Elevenses where we get to sell books to each other. All right, Julia.
All right. Well, my last one is a big boy in every sense of the word. It is Ken Follett's new book, Circle of Days. So in true Ken Follett fashion, it's about 700 pages. And this one is for the fans of Pillars of the Earth. It is a similar book in that it takes the building of one sort of big thing and it's a novel around sort of what happened there. And this one is about Stonehenge. And so Ken Follett was able to go into the archives at Stonehenge. Obviously not a ton is known about how Stonehenge came to be, but what is known, he was able to sort of scour their archives and their work with their historians that work at Stonehenge and sort of try to figure out this world mystery. And he has written, once again, a great book about this creation of Stonehenge. This is another one that multiple people, including Deborah, have told me that they absolutely loved. I also will say I've had a lot of feedback from people saying that they really flew through the whole book, and read it in just a couple of days. So even though it's a thick thick book, it's one that I think people have been just absolutely invested in as they're reading it, and it's gone quickly. So I think I want to encourage people not to be scared of the size of this one. I know if you're a Ken Follett fan and you've read him before, you're probably quite used to it, but this one is just a wonderful novel. He really he's simple in how he describes things, but in a way that really illuminates what he's talking about and sort of the history that he's getting at. And I really hope people enjoy this one. I'm really thrilled. He was on the Today Show yesterday talking about it, so you might have caught him there. But it just came out, and I'm yesterday, and I'm really thrilled that we've got this one.
So Julia and I actually were kind of playing tug of war over who was going to talk about this book today. I've been waiting to talk about. I've never read Ken Follett before. I know plenty of fans of Ken Follett. I know, right? But it's like sometimes things go by and then you never go back because you're too busy with the new things. But I've plenty of fans in my own family, and I recommend him all the time. And but I saw Stonehenge on the. How can you not read something about Stonehenge? I mean, that's an immediate gimme for me. So I dove in, and everything Julia says is correct. I mean, I was like, oh, this was 700 pages. It went really fast, but I love he sort of posits an idea of how the stones came to be there, which is perfectly plausible, and it does it in a really interesting way, but also goes into, based on his research and all of the kinds of research that he's done over the years, about the people who were living in this late Neolithic period and how they were divided into farmers and woodlanders and what was the other group? There's three main groups. But the herders and the farmers as the only sort of non-nomadic people in that group were territorial, and so he starts talking about how kind of wars erupted and how there was a push and pull over there. Anyway, you're right. It is he uses kind of simple language. He doesn't try to create dialogue in late Neolithic style, which is, thank goodness for that. But what he does sort of do is kind of imply a way of communication between these kinds of people, which I thought was great. I thought it was really well done. A little bit different from his other work, I think, Julia, people are saying, but sucked me right in. I enjoyed this so much. I thought it was great. So.
Yeah, I've heard different, but if you're a fan of his, you'll
right. If you're a fan of his, absolutely. I have seen some critics saying it's not as this or that. I don't know. For this new reader of Ken Follett, I was like, I'm all in. So. Thanks, Julia, and thank you all for letting me go on about it. Patricia, why don't you wrap us up for the day?
Well, I will. So, grocery stores, if you've been there recently, there's a great big pile of pumpkins. There's a bit of a tinge in the air here. So it's time for the macabre. It's time for the lurid. And we have it with Wound Man. This is certainly one of the stranger art books that I've had. It's The Many Lives of a Surgical Image, which in fact comes from late medieval Bohemia. It is, if you look closely at the Wound Man, or if we have the cover there, you'll see that he is horrendously injured in every possible manner. There are axes and swords and arrows and snake bites and rashes, and it's just perfectly dreadful. And they're all conveniently labeled diagnostically. So if you want to look up a problem that you might be having returning from the last battlefield, the Wound Man will help you. He is kind of an emblem. The image has been very enduring. It's gruesome. It's full of, just kind of absolutely bizarre qualities. And over the last few hundred years, the image has returned to us in various ways. It was kind of hard to believe, but there are many, many versions of the Wound Man. It's a strange and curious book with a deep medieval history, and there are even Japanese images towards the end that were derived from the Wound Man. So it begins, as I said, in the medieval Bohemia, goes through 15th century Italy. There are many incarnations in manuscripts and printed books, and all kinds of kind of cultural references. He was referred to by Hannibal Lecter, but we probably don't want to look into that too deeply. There's kind of the idea of him as an emblem of enduring humanity, kind of an icon of trauma, but defiantly alive. I sold this book in Moab, and somehow I felt there was like a biker energy for the Wound Man. Maybe he goes up there with the tattoo books. I'm not sure, but he has his own special market, and it's been fun to sell this book. It's a morbid medical history. It's kind of an exploration of early information graphics. And Hartnell is known for a book called Medieval Bodies, which I think Norton had. Some of my accounts who are dealing with gardeners and bringing in British books have the paperback, which is a very well packaged paperback in the UK. I don't think Medieval Bodies came out in paper in the US. And so it goes in that kind, this it has various places to sit. It's BISAC code is medical history, but I think the Wound Man is out and about.
I've read Medieval Bodies. I really like that book. Actually, I recognize. As Liz says, she needs it. The book, it's the new Merc manual. And Joey's the worst superhero he's ever seen. Oh God, I love this book. I mean, come on. It's I'm not going to say it's fun, but it's not fun in the traditional sense. But for any of us who love this kind of stuff, it's a great book. Medieval Bodies.
Well, and, we're all watching series every night of, visceral and terrible battlefield clobberings with. So this will kind of tell you, the aftermath.
That guy is how I feel at the end of every day, pretty much. So
yeah.
And that is
standing.
It's still, well, yes, but not wanting to be, I think, is the coda. Yeah. A good way to end Elevenses today, and as always, then this is the first time I'm going to mention today spooky season, and I do it for Julia, because Julia loves the term spooky season. But here we go. We're heading right into the thick of it. It's just it's been such an amazing season for books, and there's just more coming in October and November, I know, but there's just so much to choose from. Thank you so much for coming here today and presenting all of these wonderful ones that we all have to stock up on now. We really appreciate having you, and you're taking the time. Liz Camfiord from Random House, Julia Callahan from Hachette, and Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Joey, for producing this and getting the covers up and everything, and the links. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to be back again next week. And right here, when we'll have more reps and more books to talk about, and hope you will join us then. In the meantime, everybody have a great week and happy reading.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.